I know the bison skull smells a little bit.
I wonder what that was, but I'm used to it. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead things in here.
And go. Yes, I guess this is episode 3. I haven't done these too much, but what's up, man? My friend Donnie Dust. Do you remember how we met? I can't remember.
I did the Life in Ruins podcast up at the CU Boulder.
Did you find me, or did I find you?
I don't remember.
It was either way.
I think it was, it was Carlton was there, and then Devin came on board as we were talking about atlatls and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, it was like right before COVID and all that jazz kicked off. Yeah,
that was right before COVID. I remember being at the Denver airport and seeing people with masks on, and I was like, oh shit, it's like
something's going down.
About to go down. Yeah.
Yeah. COVID was a good time. I'm not going to lie. There wasn't a lot of people in the woods. So, I had some freedom of movement. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of when you blew up, right?
Yeah. I think on like TikTok and stuff, just because, when I did have my kids and that app was really coming into play, I guess you could say, I just made a bunch of stuff and people enjoyed it. And that was really it.
Yeah.
Still works,
Right. That was like right when Tiger King was huge on like all those Tiger King dances.
I think so. I remember the show. I think I made it to like 1 or 2 episodes. And I was like, I can't do this.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, I joined TikTok right when they were doing all those like the Carol Baskin dance and stuff. And then I remember you popped up and you're like, I didn't know you were on here, man.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
God, yeah. It's been a while, but it's been, it's brought a lot of interesting opportunities and, it works.
Cool.
Yeah. I do what I can.
What do you call yourself?
So usually I go by my birth name.
Okay.
Donnie Dust. Some people call me, professional caveman. Some people, like a modern day hunter gatherer, which, all titles, provided, nothing really claimed, I guess you could say. But, yeah, I think for what I do, like as far as living, it's probably, a self-reliance educator, traditional skills educator, author, soon to be podcast host, and do TV, movie. There's a lot of collective things. And I think in this day and age for, someone who's turning 44 here shortly, you don't have to stick with one thing. I know like my folks, and probably yours as well. They had like one career, maybe multiple careers, but it was just that one career, that one path. Get the house, get the car, have the kids, and then retire. And I'm not anything. I like doing lots of different things around, flint napping, the outdoors.
How'd you get into all that?
So really, just as a young kid, I kind of grew up in the 80s, I guess you could say. And that was the era of go outside and play and cause mischief. And it's really what we did. We could, find fields and find a board with a nail and be like, let's build a tree fort or go fishing and hunting and BB gun wars and all that stuff. And then I really enjoyed that stuff and was like, I'd like to continue doing that. But, prior to that all, through, elementary school and middle school and then into high school, I was just an outdoors lover, backpacking, fishing, hunting, camping.
Yeah.
Did a mix of, some traditional skills, more of an, experimentation, some, tanning rabbit hides and building traps and shelters and a variety of those sort of, things. But, when I was, graduating high school, my folks wanted me to go to college, really wasn't my thing. And I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps kind of fosters the idea of, if you like the outdoors and you like carrying a heavy pack and you like that navigation and adventure sort of thing, then we'll reinforce that.
Flake in my shoe, I just saw.
Yeah, there's flakes everywhere.
No, you're good.
You gotta be careful. But yeah, the Corps really supported that idea, sent me to a variety of different schools, and then the jobs I had, as far as an infantryman and then a counterintelligence agent. It just put me face to face with a lot of local people, how you go about, living with them and understanding, what they offer and what you can provide to them and kind of that reciprocity, if you will. And yeah, got out of the Corps and just wanted to keep, skiing and rock climbing and flint napping and just doing all those things that I enjoyed and try to make a dollar out of it. Cause that's always the hardest thing when it comes to, traditional skills, if you will.
Yeah. Don't skip the ads. So in the Corps, because I know I had a friend that went through the Corps, and she said that like they didn't really learn much like wilderness stuff or like outdoor stuff. But you said they sent you to some schools for that.
Yeah. So her being she, very likely, as an infantryman, you go through a lot of infantry based practices. So you go to like different jungle warfare training center, you go to mountain warfare training center, and those are really for combat arms, specifically for the infantry. It's very likely she wasn't in the infantry, and
she was like comms, I think.
Yeah, and from that she probably had different offerings. But once you kind of get a little bit more in depth with your particular MOS, your military occupational specialty or service or whatever, then you can get a little bit, you get a little bit more rank, you get a little more time in service, and then you can start opting for these various schools. Like one school I went to it was called the Mirror Image School, where I actually spent just over 30 days living as a terrorist, learning how to, place bombs and
casual.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so at that time I was a counterintelligence guy. So did that battery just die? Son of a bitch.
Possibly. Oh yeah, no, you're good. I goddamn producer or something. I'll get there.
Yeah. So mirror image school, lived as a terrorist, did all those different things, but it was to get inside the mind of your adversary, why they did it, what motivated them, what were those, financial incentives that WASTA in an environment. So you prayed 5 times a day, you did different missions. Our adversary was a bunch of federal marshals, so we would have to do kidnappings and interrogations and place things in this huge training compound to kind of simulate we were living like our adversary. So,
and was that overseas or at a base here?
That was at a location up on the West Coast.
Okay,
leave it at that.
Location. Yeah. Do you speak any Farsi or Pashto or anything?
When I was in Iraq, I knew a lot of
I guess
Arabic.
Okay.
Modern standard Arabic with a Iraqi dialect. Knew some Tagalog from a lot of the time in the Philippines. You pick up a lot of languages, where you go and kind of how you go about living in that environment.
What exactly is an intelligence? Like what is it? You're just surveying and surveillance?
So I was a counterintelligence, human intelligence agent, and for counterintelligence, you had 3 kind of simple terms to understand: was to deny, detect, and deceive, and that was terrorism, espionage, sabotage, and subversion. How I would go about denying, detecting, and deceiving those 4 things was through human sources. That's the human intelligence. So you have signals intelligence, massint, measures and signals, OSINT. So there's these different ints. And for me as a counterintelligence, human intelligence guy, I would go out with, we operated in a 4-man team, and then we would punch out to our respected kind of areas we would operate. And then the commander, whatever that mission requirements are, hey, we need you to find this, or we need you to discover this, or, our trucks keep getting sabotaged. You would go through that process through human assets. It's essentially similar to what the CIA does for, Uncle Sam, but I did it for Department of Defense.
Okay.
So you have CIA, FBI, NSA, DOD. I was that component for the DOD.
So you were in some shit. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or like, not in some shit, but like it was intense stuff.
Yeah. Like with my youngest son, he was born in 2009. And then
wow.
I think it was like 6 days later, I was on another mission down in the Philippines. Myself, the partner I operated with, he was kind of the tech guy, and I was kind of the other guy. And, we had a backpack full of cash and a pistol shoved down our pants, wearing board shorts, and just kind of doing our thing, doing vulnerability assessments and route assessments and meeting with various assets. It was pretty fun. You got to spend Uncle Sam's dollar and do some good work for a lot of the community, because it really came down to the human population. If you didn't want to see anything happen to them, and you might not realize the significance of a telephone wire sticking, running across a street, but if you move some military vehicles down a road, you rip that wire out, it cuts out their entire communication. You've now built an adversary or someone who doesn't see you favorable, and now you have to go through the steps to mend that. So one of the things to do is prevent that from the very beginning, and that's doing route assessments, building assessments, threat assessments. There's just a lot of different things. And
Yeah.
you kind of live in a overt. So overt is kind of true name, true rank, true capacity. But your mission specifics are very secretive, clandestine in certain ways. And clandestine there's a lot of misconceptions between overt, covert, and clandestine. Overt, true rank, true name, true affiliation. Clandestine is the hiding of the relationship between two people. It's the necessary steps you would take to keep your relationship with me and mine with you separate and unavoidable and unobservable to anybody in that population.
Yeah.
Covert is more along the lines of think of like an assassination and someone's car, goes off a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody could have cut those brakes or influenced that vehicle in a way where that person, ultimately died. But nobody would know that it's covert. So when you hear all these things, the covert mission was wrong. It's not covert if we know.
Sure.
You'll never know a covert mission because the originator of said name action is unknown to the recipient the action is applied to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of things to it. I spend a lot of time in various schools based on psychology and human dynamics. And because basically we embed with the local population and live,
It's like anthropology.
Pretty much. It's like a ground truth anthropology, living with, Bedouins in the Middle East to various military units in the jungles of the Philippines and Thailand and Malaysia. Everything and anything is a possibility because when it comes to intelligence gathering, somebody wants to know. And it's your job to find that answer through human assets, avoiding terrorism, espionage, sabotage, and subversion.
Sure. Wow, man.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed your service, it sounds like?
I did. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. Made some good friends. Still keep in contact with them today. Yeah.
Yeah. Good, man.
Yeah.
Was your transition out of the military, was that pretty rough or smooth? You're a caveman now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The transition was something I had to focus on. When I was getting out, this was, 2011 timeframe. There wasn't a lot of things in place. There were some things, but it wasn't what we have today. So
yeah,
having a psychology background and dealing with that human dynamic, I understood cognitively my own triggers, my own things that would kind of push me back into a world that I was trying to leave. Because I only did 12 years and the goal was to be a father and to be around my kids and that whole 9 yards. So yeah, so the transition was something I had to really focus on, with a background in psychology and kind of understanding the things that would kind of trigger me here and trigger me there. I kind of went through like a cognitive process to identify said name thing and then take the necessary steps to really overcome it. And then the outside world, the natural world, the wild, if you will, that was one of like the levelers. It brought me down into a good spot because I'd always wanted to be there. I always enjoyed my time outside. So that transition was, I had a difficulty dealing with certain personalities, but you quickly realize like, it's not the end of the world.
Like personalities back in the civilian world.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that I was with, and will kind of show our age, but our mentality was when we were out fighting a war, America was at the mall. They just didn't really give a shit. Part of my French, but
you're fine.
I kind of realized later on they did care, but everybody deals with those sort of things in different ways, and it's not my place to judge them on my experiences. And I just said, all right, cool. You do you. If you present that value to me as a good quality human being, then I'll socialize around you. If not, you're gone.
So I guess that kind of, like when you got out, did you have a job after that, or did you kind of just start doing this already? Yeah.
So in order to like transition out, I kind of lined myself up with some government contracting, which wasn't the best thing because all I was doing was
security.
The exact same thing
okay.
that I was doing in the Corps, but I was making a substantial amount of money. And it really wasn't my jam because I wanted to leave that sort of thing. And all I did was put myself right back into it. And I found myself right outside of DC in Maryland. And probably within 4 or 5 months of doing it, I was like, I'm done. I need to get into the mountains. I need to go where I need to be, and move back out to Colorado and work the occasional contract here, but more on that survival side. So that was kind of allowing me to progress in certain ways financially, but it allowed me to really just say, all right, this is what I want to do. And this is a time, I mean, I didn't have any social media. I didn't have any social media. I mean, until like 2017, I was just, was in the proverbial primitive closet. So I didn't care about sharing stuff. And then
what made you come out?
When I had my heart attack at 37.
Right. You had a widowmaker.
Yeah. I had a widowmaker heart attack. Probably a little genetics, a little stress at the time, just with, various things.
And you were jogging when it happened? Is that?
So I just returned from teaching in Alaska. There was multiple symptoms throughout the day, but like most men, we die from stupidity. So
yep.
Yeah,
I learned that one.
Exactly. So I ignored all those signs and symptoms, but the signs and symptoms I had weren't like the left arm hurting. I just had like a burning sensation in my chest. So I come from Alaska. It was February. Figure back in elevation. I'm out for a run. I was training for a super jungle ultra marathon down in Peru.
Casually dropping that too.
Yeah. So I was like 6 months into that training cycle. So I'm like, all right, it's got to be the elevation. Give yourself a day. And later on that evening, I just woke up like hot coals on the chest, and
it's like a burning sensation.
Yeah, it was burning. My jaw didn't tighten. My back didn't hurt. It was just like, how I tell people is Satan took a dump on my chest, and it was just burning hot.
Damn.
My wife at the time, she drove me to the hospital, got in the hospital. They did some tests, checked my troponin levels, and they're like, you had a heart attack. And I was like, I don't know, guy. Like, I've delivered babies, patched up wounds. I don't think so. I kind of know my body. He's like, well, I'm 65. I've been a cardiologist for 40 plus years.
I know a little bit.
I'm like, all right, you've got me on this one. Yeah. So they put a stent in my heart, and then,
oh shit.
Yeah. They went up through my wrist down into the heart. Yeah. I had a 99% blockage that just ruptured. I got a photo of it. It's kind of cool. Yeah. 3 days later, I was out of the hospital, could barely walk around the corner. And I was just winded and gassed. And then, maybe 10 to 15 days later, I just started my recovery, which was a holistic kind of in the mountains.
Sure.
Connecting with who I am, what brings me peace, what brings me value, and just made some significant life changes. And that's when I kind of went on social media to kind of share my story. If, you're a 30-year-old male to a 65-year-old male, you got to take care of yourself. Otherwise, it could be game over just like that.
Right. I've had several like chest pains before. And I remember like you had a heart attack, and I'm like, well, fuck, if Donnie had one, I'm probably toast. And then I take a breath and I'm like, but no.
And that was one of the biggest things. I knew I had a good network of friends down where I was living in Southern Colorado, and so many of them were shocked that I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me be your example. If I can have a heart attack, who's not a big drinker and eats well and is very, very active, and someone, like you over there who doesn't do anything, like, take that as a warning, you know what I mean? So I'm happy to be that example for men and women, saying like, look, it can happen, man.
Yeah.
So if you get pains, go get checked out, man.
Yeah, I had that wicked sinus infection I was telling you about before this, and like I got steroids for it, and then 2 days later, like my hands and feet just went completely numb, and had to go to the hospital. It was weird. And I had a fall belt and shit. And
Jesus.
I'm 31?
Yeah.
So I was 30 when that happened, and I could just see my parents being like, "Oh God!" Like it was weird. I had friends come in too to visit, and I fucked with them, and I was like, "Hey guys," but it wasn't my best, but
yeah, man,
it happens, dude, and it kind of hit me. And that's when I started like, all right, I'm biking, I'm working out every day, like,
it's the wake up call that most of us, I'd say, is for as much as I love the outdoors and do things, it's like, I'm still part of this modern world, especially when I have my sons. It's, I'm still part of this. And like, there's all those factors in that modern world that can impact somebody.
Oh, that's Jurassic Park Raptor. I got, nice. You got it. I still got 15 minutes.
But that's why it's just important to, get checked in, because there are different stressors, whether it's you're a veteran or you're a student or some sort of employment. You got to take care of yourself. You got to eat right. A lot of the things that I take for my heart are natural in form, from like fenugreek to red rice yeast extract and all these various kind of holistic sort of things. And I haven't been healthier, monitor my blood pressure. I ate a lot of meat.
You did the carnivore diet after that, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
That helped?
Yeah, it was great. My blood pressure dropped. I probably lost like 10, 15 pounds. It was an experiment to see how I could live as somebody who likes to hunt and eat meat. How does my body work in that capacity,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it worked out, wrote an article about it and shared my story. That's really what my life has kind of been since that heart attack. I was trying to share the story and kind of expose people to different ways of thinking and different practices. And, as much as I love going into the woods with a steel knife, I enjoyed even more with a stone blade.
Right.
It just slows you down.
Yeah.
It's good.
I went to the woods for 4 days, a couple weeks ago.
Saw that.
And just, dude, it was, no signal, no nothing. Like I still had like stuff on my phone at night to look through, but
yeah,
just my anxiety from life just stopped, and it became like, worried about money, worried about doctor shit. And then it just turned into like, is that a bear? A moose terrify me. So I'm like looking around, and it was just a reset. So like, I guess that's why you enjoy it too. Like,
absolutely. It's always a reset every time, just like you did, whether it's one day or, a week or whatever that timeline is. It is an absolute all natural reset where you completely disconnected and you just get to like focus on what I like to call like real world priorities. Like, where's my food? Where's my water? Am I staying warm tonight? Will I be run over by a moose or eaten by a bear?
Yeah.
And then when you have a 4-legged companion with you, it's like, you still kind of get to exert some of that kind of like concern. Like, are they okay? Do they have enough food? Do they have enough? So I kind of need a little bit of that, but I don't get much feedback from that 4-legged companion because they just, yep, I'm good.
One thing I noticed, that I didn't bring my dog out this time, I brought my friend's dog, but it's very different having my German Shepherd who will, he does a perimeter sweep. He'll check the front of the group or come to the back, to a border collie who just want to play fetch the whole time.
There you go.
But I still noticed that he would smell something in the wind before I could see it. And sometimes I could see there was a mule deer out there that I could see before he smelled it. Okay. And it's that like, I don't know, do you see that with Finn?
Yeah, I know Finn is very much a go out and report back sort of dog.
Yeah, so Strider too.
Yeah, he just takes off. I know he's coming back and he knows where I'm at, I would say 100% of the time. But yeah, he'll take off, and I've spent enough time with him in the woods where I can really watch his body language. Like, he'll sit and he'll just move his head, and if he sees something, he's off. You know? I mean, he likes to catch squirrels and rabbits and all that, so that's kind of his thing. But the other day we were out in the woods, and I was scraping a deer hide with some stone scrapers, and he sat next to me. And as I was completely focused on that task, he was like, I was facing this way and he was facing that way, and it was just kind of like he had my back. He's like, all right, I know you're doing something.
Yeah.
Do it, but then don't forget about those chicken treats because I'm doing my I'm doing my part, But yeah, he's a good dog. He's definitely a good dog. He's a smart dog, and when I realized he was smart was when he understood fire. Simply being like, we've laid next to many of fires, but he knows that if I'm laying here, he's laying here, the fire's here. He gets my warmth and he gets the fire's warmth.
Okay.
He's not afraid of it. And I think some dogs, they get a little bit nervous around fire, probably.
My dog tries to bite the embers. Yeah.
The little things that pop.
Yeah.
So I don't know like how that plays instinctually into them, but he is very much aware of where the fire is and likes to position his body.
Yeah.
He understands like the wind when it's blowing in like one of the caves. He just gets it. So I'm like, he's smart. He's got something going on in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
What do dogs mean to you? I know it's probably a tough question on the spot.
Yeah,
but
I think dogs are similar to like the woods. They don't judge, they don't cheat, they don't steal. They're 100% truth, and they're 100% honest. When they're hungry, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
They're not gonna do anything to harm you. Most of the times when dogs are misbehaving, it's out of our negligence or it's out of them being reactive to something, but it is the ultimate companion, like the ultimate form of companionship. More importantly, like reciprocity from the point of I can be doing all these things in the day, you know, building a spear, napping stone, trying to catch fish, and he's always by my side. He's never rushing me. He's never doing anything, but he knows when we sit down that evening to cook that fish, he's going to get some, and it's just peace, man. It's a total peace.
I forget which podcast I was on, but I was talking about this, and dogs to me are kind of, you could grow up in Hong Kong, like in a high rise, then you can grow up in New York, like I did, and then you could grow up, like, I guess you grew up in Colorado?
Yeah. Well, Colorado and a couple other places.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like you could be out there with a dog in the woods. Someone could be with a little Chihuahua thing or Shih Tzu in Hong Kong. You still have like a remnant Ice Age predator. So you're still connected to that like Paleolithic past.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're cutting bison with salutary points over here. But I don't know. How you feel about that? Because kind of like in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, the very first time I took Finn out, we were out by Alma, Colorado. We were walking up through these hills. We did our day. It was like our bonding. Like we went up and we swam in these high like pools, caught some fish, and was like, all right, he's a good dog. We were walking down, a big moose just jumped in front of me, and he got between me and that moose.
That's my biggest fear with a dog.
And it was always a fear walking around the moose because it just jumped out. But he got between me and that moose, laid on a growl, walked towards the moose, and kind of pushed it back just a few feet. And then I gave him a whistle, and he came right back to me. And I was like, "We are now best friends forever." Like,
was he like growling at it?
He was growling, and like when he gets excited,
so cool.
He gets a spike on his back. That's my indicator. Like something is upsetting to him. That's like the one thing. And the hair went up on his back, and I didn't know it at that time, but that's his indicator. But he just growled it down, and like an idiot, I'm like trying to pull my phone. I'm like, this is the coolest day ever.
You know, with a moose right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think he went to that point of his primal past, and then me having that dog there being like, this thing could have definitely trampled me was another great point. I'm like, man, there's some instinct there. There's a connection that dates back, thousands of years.
Yeah. No, it's cool. They're fearless, dude. And my dog, our little beagle, when grown up, went to my aunt's ranch in New York, and it just ran up to like a little tiny beagle spaniel mix to the horse pen and just barked it all over them and like scared. She'd never seen horses before.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, they're just like fearless. And then the indicating, my dog will like stick its tail right up. Yeah, I saw it's like one of those Nature is Metal things, but there's a sled dog team in Norway or Finland, and a moose just comes out of nowhere, like they're fucking Hummers, huge, and then just stomped like one of the dogs on the chain, and you could just see the guy was like, oh god, like I can't do anything, and he had to take the dog off and put it like, it was dead clearly. But like moose scare the shit out of me for those reasons, because I always joke about this. I did this in stand-up the other day, but
right on.
You think about Australia with all the poisonous shit and the jellyfish and the snakes and the everything, spiders, but then in America we just have fucking Ice Age predator, like bears, grizzlies, wolves, just like hanging out in town at Jackson.
Lions.
Like, so that kind of thing, like, and I guess Finland too, where the moose was, or Norway, but yeah, they're big. I didn't know those were like more dangerous than wolves.
Yeah. Though they come after you, man. They really do. I brought plenty of clients out, and if I know there's generally moose in this area, I'm like, all right, let's start talking, make some noise, just give them a little warning, because they'll make their.
Is that the thing to do?
Yeah, it's letting them know you're there, and then more importantly, paying attention to when the rut is, when they're mating, when they're going to be more aggressive, when the hormones are flaring, and anything that poses a threat is a threat. They're going to respond.
Okay.
If you come across a moose during, the middle of summer, it's probably already smelled you, scented you, and it's going to take off. Most people see them at distance, but when it's the rut, I'm going to eat that fly. When it is the rut, that's when you just got to be real careful. And then moms and their calves. That's the other.
Pretty protective.
Yeah. Big hazard.
Okay.
there's this one spot out by, Maysville, Colorado, and I bring folks out into this one area, and I'm like, all right, as we're walking up, there's a couple lakes. I've seen plenty of moose up here, but pick your line. Like, pick the line that you're going to run into a tree if we come around this bend and it's standing there in the alder. Like, just pick your line where you're going, and everybody goes. Don't try to be a hero in this thing, because that thing will take those giant ass hooves and just
stomp
knock you down. Yeah.
I kind of always thought like get between some trees where it can't get its antlers through. Is that the right way?
Pick your line to a
I
group
see.
of trees and put that pack in front of you, and because it will come around and try to scare you. But I mean, I've never had to work that sort of thing. I've had and seen plenty of moose, but that's the best practice is put yourself a little barrier, pick your line you're gonna run to, and then find your trees and use that pack.
Sure. Huh. And we're back.
Hey,
have you encountered a wolf before in Alaska or Canada?
Yes, up in Canada and up in Alaska. Nothing up close.
Okay.
Usually at distance, and then once you hear a howl or you see something move, that's when it kind of draws in your attention, and you just kind of fix on that area. But nothing up close and personal where I've had to shoot a wolf or negate any sort of thing in that capacity.
There's that guy on Alone. I don't think it was your season. It was season after. Okay. But there were like 6 wolves around his like shelter when he woke up, and he was just like throwing fire at him and stuff. And I was like, damn, that's how it happened.
That's pretty much it. No, there's food over here.
Yeah.
Get the remnants and just find the least aggressive one.
That's pretty cool. My friend saw one on Vancouver Island. Like he was taking a shit one morning on the beach. He was on some expedition thing. It's a college thing. But yeah, he said he just didn't hear it. He just turned around and it was just right there looking at him, and the coolest thing he ever saw.
Yeah. The ultimate pack predator, man.
Yeah, no,
it really is
sick watching him hunt and stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. I feel weird talking about wolves and dogs all the time, having never seen them up close doing their thing, but it's all through, obviously it's not like a deep fake where they're hunting a bison, but I'd love to see it at some point, but I don't know like where to do. I guess Yellowstone, but
yeah, well, I mean, you're in Wyoming, so I mean, that's a good population to start heading north. And I think probably the easiest time to see them is when it's winter time. You get obviously contrasting colors, tracking
and stuff,
and then they're going to be out looking for food. So that's a good opportunity to kind of find that population. But they know the different packs that are active in the areas that they roam and range.
Yeah,
probably get some eyes on
for sure. The Yellowstone Wildlife Tour company. I don't know. A guy messages me and says, "Come on out whenever."
You should.
It's fucking 8-hour drive for me, but I'll do it. Usually in June, he said you can see them the best.
There you go.
But in the winter, you can also. I'm sure they just can't do all the tours in the winter. But what is, and like whether this is cryptid or an animal, like what's the scariest thing you've encountered out there, or like I guess not encountered?
Yeah, I mean, I've never come across aliens or Bigfoot or any sort of mythological creatures.
Think Bigfoot's real? No judgment.
I really haven't seen the evidence that would make me think he is real. I think that's probably the easiest thing to replicate. You could take any hide, and bears walk on their hindquarters. I mean, if you see that flashing from somewhere, that could be a mistake. There was Gigantopithecus, so that was definitely a large, primate. So I bet there was at times something obviously like that in the Americas. Do we know that it exists today? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Not entirely. It's like one of those things where if it's real, bag it and tag it and show it to me.
Exactly.
But also primates are inherently extremely social. That's our adaptation.
There you go.
So you would see groups of them
that makes sense.
Either not eating, throwing feces, banging, like something.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. So I don't know why we haven't seen any, but yeah, I don't know. And then there's like, I don't want to say it for the indigenous listening, but like the W words and the skin words. I don't know if those exist at all, or it's just, I'll just say it and bleep it, but skin and I know if you say it, you summon them.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that, we're not in the woods, but it's one of those things where when I'm in the woods, I'm like, those aren't real. But then I will just get in my head and I'm like, well, what if they are? Like that. But do you get shit like that?
No, I think once you spend enough time in the woods, you realize nothing there really is seeking you out or wanting to eat you or really have anything to do with you. I always call it a pattern of life. In every environment, there's a pattern of life. And once you go into the woods, you can do two things. You can become part of that pattern of life, or you can be just an observer of that pattern of life, the birds, the sounds, the smells. And once you've been in there for a while, you wholeheartedly become part of it. Not in like some, spiritual sense, but like you start to understand at a distance, that's the sound the stream makes. This is the sound the stream makes at the bend. This is what it sounds like when the wind's blowing at night through the tops of these trees. That's a bird, that's a raccoon. So you start to kind of get a deeper kind of understanding of that natural environment. And then when there's an anomaly in that environment, some off-putting sound or something like that, you're like, what is that? Okay, I think it's this. The first thing I don't think is it's some sort of cryptid or White Walker or something that, or you know what I mean? You kind of figure out what it is.
You got plenty of obsidian for those, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, stories are always have a grain of some sort of truth in there, but
sure.
I don't really, it doesn't hold much merit in my mind. I know there's some unexplainable things in there, but just because with a lack of evidence isn't a good justification on why something is,
right.
So I always kind of think, well, there's very likely some sort of plausible thing, and it's probably an animal in heat. I mean, it could be any number of things from the natural world. Do those things belong part of that natural world? Yes.
Sure.
But do I believe that they exist? No. I haven't seen anything that would really sell me on, like you say, bag it and tag it.
Yeah.
Let's give it a taste and see,
Yeah, it's America. Like someone would have done it by now.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
This is a nation of guns. And
right.
somebody would have been like, there's someone in the backyard.
Yeah.
It would have
That's
been
another thing the other day too. Like I got a 30-30.
Right on.
It's a Winchester looking thing, but it's got tack rails on it, which I find funny.
Oh, cool.
Call it my space cowboy.
That's cool.
But like, yeah, just walking through the woods, like with that, because I get moose terrify me. I'm probably not supposed to shoot the moose if I see them, but
in the air, you're good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, shooting it in the woods, like the echo. But I guess the main thing I was gonna say was it just like this. I'll get it in a second. You just feel American. I don't know, but like not Lewis and Clark-ish, but there was just something about walking out there with I'm the biggest, meanest predator out here.
Yeah.
Felt good.
You feel like a mountain man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You Kit Carson or any one of those guys.
Oh,
you're like,
just Jeremiah Johnson.
yeah.
One of those guys.
Especially with the 30-30, that's a classic.
Blow a hole through something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know America.
You have atlatls out there, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, I have atlatls. I have plenty of, hunting rifles and various, firearms, but, I don't ever carry a firearm when I go out. I mean, I think I probably have more shotguns because I like to go duck hunting and goose hunting.
Okay.
And that's, you can't, you can hunt geese and stuff with a bow in certain states, but for me, it's meat in the fridge and you can see the wings that are above you.
I didn't even notice those.
Yeah. Those are all for fletchings. You know what I mean? So it's meat and it's resources. But when I go out for, 3 days, 10 days, whatever the case may be, it is simply just me. Like there's bears out there and I've seen them. I've seen moose and I know where there's mountain lions, but you just pay attention, become part of the pattern of life in that environment and you really won't have any issues.
So some lady on Alone, there was another, I think Vancouver Island one.
Yeah.
She was like out there and you could see a bear, you could see some ducks. And like, she was like, I wake up every morning, I'm part of this and it's a nice flow.
That's it.
I guess that's meditative. It's
very meditative. And I think in that sort of case, it's also just having good situational awareness. Like, I'm not going to, eat my food inside my shelter. I did a YouTube video the other day.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I washed my clothes in a stream. I hunted a marmot. I had marmot stuff all over me, just that smell and odor. And I just washed my clothes. It's just simple practices like that can really, eliminate those chances of having an encounter with a bear or some sort of predator.
Yeah. Have you, I guess back to that question because I'd segued, but have you encountered anything pretty crazy out there?
Yeah. So
bears or cats?
The one thing that's, has been kind of the story and I've written about it is I was in a cave. This is before I had Finn. Just the fire was going out and I was kind of, asleep. I was definitely asleep and I just felt something licking my toes.
Whoa.
And what was licking my toes was just a juvenile black bear. And
holy shit.
Yeah. And it crawled into the entrance and I felt it. I woke up. I was, I did I can't even replicate the noise and scream that I made, but it was,
primal.
Yeah. It was like, I'm going to die. But it was a juvenile bear and it just took off running. And I lit a fire after that and stayed up the remainder of the night. But that was probably my closest encounter, my scariest encounter, the one thing that like, I mean, I can close my eyes and remember that bear licking my toes. I mean, they got long tongues, so they were, you know, in there. But that's the one thing that's always kind of been that scariest moment. And I've sustained injuries and sicknesses in a variety of environments. I think in the Amazon, when I was down there last, I mean, I had to jump off a river barge and swim the Amazon across the Amazon River. So like,
I saw. Oh, I guess I'm not supposed to say you sent me that, but I saw that one.
Yeah, and I was not worried about piranhas or anacondas. I was worried about those little things that swim up your pee hole.
Right.
So as I'm trying to swim, I'm like, don't pee, but I'm like, I gotta pee. And then I come to find out it's like only in certain areas of the Amazon. It's not like all water. So I was like,
I feel like if you're peeing, it would stop them from going up, or is it draw them closer, I guess?
I'm not sure.
Huh?
Some fire trucks. Is that going to be?
No,
okay.
That's fine. I probably won't pick up. But
yeah. So there's all those little myths about the Amazon, but I mean, I drank the water there. I wound up getting some sort of, you know, parasite in my gut. My girlfriend made a tea out of it. And within 3 days, it was gone.
Parasite?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was drinking like this like stream water and stuff. You're not supposed to do it, but the locals were doing it. So I'm like, well, they're doing it, I'm going to do it. And I was fine until I got on that like 18-hour flight back, and it was like, you know, real food in the belly, and it was just a negative response. And then I kind of told her my symptoms, and she whipped something up, and it was gone.
Gotcha.
But
I remember sending you the news article about those kids that were in the Amazon, and like they survived eating something, and your response was, "There's plenty eating it."
Oh my god, dude!
And then I watched the thing you sent me, and you didn't even like make a shelter. The British guy did.
Yeah.
You just laid on a log, and we're like, I showed that to my friends the other day. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, they're huge trees, and when they fall over, it's like 5 feet wide. Just put some palm fronds over the top, let the rain come down, and just lay it on there. But I mean, there's so much to eat in the jungle. Like, I mean, I remember finding a Brazil nut tree. Okay. The Brazil nut is the size of a football. And once you kind of break it open, it's got all the small little Brazil nuts on the inside. And I was like taking it apart. I'm like, oh, that's 5, that's 10, 20. That's like 30 of them in there. And they're like that big. So I was like, that's good. I mean, I shot an electric eel.
I saw it.
The electric eel. So, I mean, you just kind of know what to look for. There's fruit everywhere.
Do you study up before you go, or talk with the indigenous, or do you just kind of watch animals eat?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Yeah, I definitely study. No matter where I go or what I'm doing, it's important to kind of get a lay of the land, whether it's the flora, the fauna, whatever that case is, what can harm me, what's consumable. And then I go back to my old counterintelligence, human intelligence days. When I get on ground in that environment, it's, what can I learn from the locals? Walk through a market, walk through a local store, try to see those things that they're eating, and then ask them, and the easiest way is like, you eat this? And they're like, no. You're like, all right, sketch, no,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely do a lot of research, and then talk with the locals. I mean, that's the ground truth that you really need. It's like when someone says, hey, I'm coming to Colorado, what should I do? What should I bring?
Yeah.
And they go to the local, and we do the same thing,
Okay. Yeah, I sent you that mushroom the other day because I always find them, and I'm like, I don't know which ones are going to make me trip balls or shit myself.
It's a bolete, Boletes are great, but when you look at mushrooms, there are so many of them, and they can present different kind of like, colors and cracks in the top and gills and spores. So, I mean, why not? I mean, just have your research materials and take a gander,
Do you know fungi are more related to people than plants?
I've heard that. I think it was on somewhere.
I think Neil Tyson said it on Rogan the other day.
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
But I was showing my friends the other day. There's a tree stump out, like way out where I was, that was kind of eaten out, is the word, I guess, or hollowed out. But apparently it's a fungus that will eat the inside of the tree until it gets to the very outside. Yeah. So that the tree can still stand up, and that makes other animals come in to sleep in it, so it can eat the feces and shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, they're so smart, but they're not living. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think mushrooms are just fascinating. They really are. I mean, I've seen puffballs that are that size, and then I've seen puffballs that are that size.
Down in the Amazon somewhere?
No, just in Colorado, out by like Durango, that area.
Okay.
My girlfriend and I were scouting elk, and we found a puffball that was the size of a basketball. And I was like, holy cow. I'm like, that's,
Yeah.
there's just so many different things. I mean, I love it all. It's all good food.
Yeah. I guess what's your like favorite or go-to meal when you're out in the woods here in Colorado?
Yeah, I think when it comes to go-to meal, especially playing the elevation, if I'm above 11,000 feet, it's always going to wind up being marmot. If it's below that, probably some sort of squirrel or rabbit or fish. I mean, I always like to fish first because it's pretty much the easiest. You can see the fish in the water. They're pretty responsive to simple lures. Any sort of hunting requires, some sort of bow or firearm or something like that. But yeah, fish first, and then I like rabbit. I like squirrel. I like marmot. If I'm not taking some sort of game, it's berries. There's so many berries out there.
Yeah.
Certain mushrooms. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty to eat, but just gotta kind of have the know-how to get it, which usually poses a problem for some folks. A lot of people can build a shelter and make a fire and do all this sort of campcraft, and when it comes to food, that's where the real game starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the pursuit, if you will.
And you're a shelter first, fire second person? Or
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, from the, shelter from the sun, if it's beating down on you, rain, weather, whatever that case may be, but something to keep you protected is probably the best. It's easier to have a shelter up, and if you're going to stay in, a place for one night, then you can move on. Don't really need a fire, but I use fire as nothing more than a tool to cut, shape, do that sort of thing. And then something to process, cook food, boil water, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been in the Chihuahua countless times walking through canyons, and I'm like, the last thing I want in 95-degree weather is a fire.
Yeah.
If I need the fire, it's probably because I've sourced some form of water, and then I focus on fire. Fire's a good thing, but fire's the thing that keeps you in place. Like, you have to think most of survival situations are self-induced. A lot of people on YouTube, any TV show, it is all self-induced survival. You are putting yourself specifically in that situation to experience, to train, to work, problems in different scenarios. So with it being self-induced, you have a certain aspect of control and influence. And most people, when they build a fire, that is where they're at. This is where I'm going to be, which is a good thing. It provides a lot. But if it was a real survival scenario, the last thing you want to do is be like, all right, now I'm going to build a shelter. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to do all these things because of X, Y, and Z. You want to get rescued. You want to get help. Fire's a good sign of rescue, signal. But if it's...
You ever eaten flies?
No, I'm about to though. It's Carl. It's my one fly. But like, if it's in the middle of winter and you've got you're lost. I mean, no one's going to be lost out in the middle of winter in shorts and stuff. Typically, if you're lost in winter, skiing, snowshoeing, something to that extent. So you probably have some appropriate gear. It's going to be it's goddamn fly. It's going to be way harder to create a fire in that environment compared to creating a wall to block the wind from zapping the heat out of you,
So a shelter is enough warmth for you for like one night if you really need it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I break sheltering into an analogy called TOWERS: time, others, weather, equipment, resources, and safety.
Okay.
So, it's raining out. If I see the clouds coming, am I going to build something huge and elaborate? No, I'm just going to get out of the rain, something over my person, if you will. If we think of others, so if there's 5 of us, that requires a little bit bigger shelter, they might allow us to decrease our amount of time because we have more people working.
Yeah. So,
the weather, what are the factors of the weather? Obviously, equipment, like it's easy to construct something with nothing, but if you have all the equipment, axes, saws, knives, all that sort of stuff, you can go a little bit kind of on the other side. Resources, because a lot of people find I love when people post on Instagram these like epic photos of their tent right on the edge of a lake. I'm like, that is the worst place.
So windy.
It's windy. There's mosquitoes, there's bugs, there's critters come down, and that's not really what you want to do. So I apply that TOWERS because it really makes me just think, all right, how much time do I have? Who's with me? What's the weather like? What equipment I have? What are the resources? If if I walk 100 yards that way, there's all this deadfall and all the resources to build a shelter. And my water is 200 yards that way. Well, I'm going to be in my shelter longer. I can easily walk 200 yards, get some water, and come on back, you know. And then how safe is that overall shelter? Am I on the edge of a cliff? Am I in a wash? Am I on a game trail? Is there tons of feces around me that's indicative of some sort of animal?
Okay.
So I apply some just logical thinking, but put in that towers analogy.
Yeah. So the W in that was weather.
Weather.
When do you find water? Is it after your shelter, before your shelter?
Yeah. So you kind of factor in the water with resources, because yes, it's building resources,
Gotcha.
but it's also hydration. It's also food. It's also signaling if you're, you know, hemmed up and you got to create a signal. So if I have a great location to build my shelter, but water is a half a day that way, well, then I'm going to try and find something better because there's no resources around there.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, it's like a quick, you know, analysis. Like, all right, it's just me. I don't have any tools. I got, you know, one hand blade. And there's plenty of water because there's streams everywhere. And, you know, am I in a good location? No, I'm not in a good location because I'm kind of in this floodplain. I'm going to move up a little bit, or I'm going to sleep on top of a tree, or
I made that mistake one time. Yeah.
It happens, you know?
Yeah.
But
like I was on a downslope and this isn't good. I switched up, but I was in the Smokies. And
Yeah.
every time I've camped there, it's just poured the whole time.
yeah, man.
You ever been to Smokies?
I think on
Or like
the
Blue Ridge out there?
Yeah, the Blue Ridge side, and I've done some stuff along the AT in that area.
Okay. Yeah, it's gorgeous in the fall. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
big trees.
Yeah.
All those deciduous trees.
Is there a difference? That's a good question. Like between like survival in a deciduous forest versus a pine forest?
Yeah, anything like eastern woodlands way easier.
You get so much bendable.
Yeah, you
stuff.
get a lot of softer woods, and plus you also get some hardwoods. You know, in the Rockies, you're getting aspen, you're getting pine, you're getting, you know, scrub oak and alder and a lot of like bushy sort of things. But the eastern woodland, that sort of thing is just way easier.
Yeah.
Way easier. The downside is, well, it's not really a downside, but like if you're in the eastern woodland, there's just a larger population over there. So going back to that, pretty much all survival is self-induced because like if you're really hemmed up out there, it's very likely if you stay in place, you protect yourself from the elements, build some sort of signal to get help, you'll be out of there before you know it, you know.
Yeah.
Case by case, but that's pretty routine.
Yeah, no, sure. Because it's fascinating. Out here, it's like wiki ups and things like the quickest thing you can make. But out there, like growing up, you learn about the Iroquois and like all them and all the like the bending the trees and then tying them and putting the bark siding. It takes like a whole year to process that. And
all that birch bark.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, that's a house though. That's a long-term living situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to think most survival stuff is like, survival is just getting by. You know, when you think of like a Native American population, you know, that's thriving, that's living. And I think that's where, like in my world, I like to dive more into that thriving sort of aspect, given a certain parameters, you know, because like I've said, you know, in a couple different books, you have like high tech, low tech, and no tech, these 3 different praxis that you can kind of operate in. You get to pick what you want to do. Like when you went out, you brought your 30-30, but you still made a stone axe, right? So you're kind of in that no tech to kind of low tech. But if somebody wants to go out backpacking for a weekend and they bring a tent and all these different things, cool. You have the high tech resources, but you could still find yourself in that situation where
something goes downhill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you adapt? How do you overcome? What are the necessary steps? What knowledge, skills, and abilities are you going to employ to get yourself out of that situation?
Yeah.
I like to bring it all the way back to like the bare minimum. Don't get me wrong. I still drive a truck out into the mountains. I'm not like riding a horse or anything like that, which would be awesome. But
that would be cool.
Yeah, but at a certain point, it's like, all right, I cut certain things off and I say, this is how I'm going to operate. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a mix in between, but I'm not stepping out of this until it's time to actually leave.
Sure.
You go for days without eating and, you know, that's just part of it.
What's the biggest mistake people make normally? I guess panic could be first, but
in like a survival situation, I think a lot of it is just not accepting the fact that something's wrong. You know, a twisted ankle, or I'm lost, or, you know, it's the modern way of like, don't worry, I think I can overcome this. And you can, but it's just like, first you got to accept the reality. All right, I'm totally lost. It's dark, you know, night's coming in. I need to stop. I need to collect my thoughts, my bearings, and then maybe just rack out here for the night. But so many people, they get more lost because like, oh, I got work tomorrow. I got to do this, or I got to check this. So I think just accept the fact, be like, all right, I'm lost. Yep, my ankle is swollen. I don't think I'm going to be able to walk out. Maybe I can crawl out, whatever those scenarios are. But accept the reality of it and start to adapt and overcome.
Okay. It's a good way to put it. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath and be like, all right, I'm fucked. But
that's it. Yeah, I always call it SILS. Sit, look, listen, smell. Where am I? What am I doing? I'm lost. All right. I know I walked up a hill, and I know I'm at the top of a hill.
Yeah.
But I got 360s on the top of this hill. Where can I see a light? And the reality is, most people in North America, if you were lost in the woods, you were probably, I think someone did a study, you were within 8 to 10 miles of some sort of road.
Sure.
And find yourself to a road. The question is, do I go left or do I go right? You don't go anywhere. You sit there and hopefully somebody comes along, but after maybe, 6 hours, then you start to move in one direction. If people understood, tire tracks and how they lay, you could be like, all right, that's coming in, that's going out.
Right.
Look for trash. 2
tracks everywhere in the West. Like it surprises me.
Everywhere. Can't get away from them.
Yeah. With these acronyms and stuff you have, this is all for is it in the books? I mean, or is it for the classes you teach?
Yeah. So I incorporate a lot of the acronyms and stuff in the classes I teach, but my 3rd book, which will be coming out next year in that June, July, August timeframe, is really breaking down. It is the survival manual that I've spent the better portion of a year working on.
You have Scavenger.
Yeah.
And the next one is
Earth Roamer. And this one right now, the working title that we're kind of going with some editors is Wild Wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be coming out next year. And that really is the full survival manual. And nothing in it is you can pick up any survival manual today, most of them, and it's just regurgitated information from a couple field manuals published by the military. It's just the same stuff. And this one is all ground truth. Like it is 100% in all the different environments I've been to, speaking from experience. I'm not listing 10 traps that I think work. I'm listing 5 traps that I've used, shelters that I've used. So there is an authenticity. There's a truth to it. And it's just not best idea or I think this would work. It's like, this is what I've done. This has worked in this environment. This has not worked in this environment.
It's just your personal experience and what works well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. It should be good.
Yeah. And I know something fundamental in I guess you might have said it to me or it was in your book. I can't remember. But like stone tools are your first skill, right? Or first technology.
Always.
Well, I mean, we're nappers. You're obviously much more better. What do stone tools mean to you?
Yeah, I think stone tools are they're awesome.
Yeah.
But it is literally giving me perspective in life where in this day and age where everything can come very easy, you do have the option to make it horrible and make it suck by learning some of these. And I say anyone that's involved in primitive skills, you should be learning stone tools and going down that pathway because it's been my life for years and years and years, and it's done so much for me. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah,
it's everything, but no, it really should be your first skill. Learning how to simply make a cutting tool and how to use those tools to stay alive. I mean, that's what all of our ancient ancestors did. Whether you're from Asia or Europe or we all use stone tools. We've used stone longer than we've used steel, and it's still here today.
Yeah, very true.
It works.
Yeah.
Firsthand, it works.
Yeah. You can make fire with them. You can, I guess flake first for cutting tool, then biface, and then all that.
Hello, son. We're doing a podcast.
You're good. What's up, man?
This is David.
Hey, yeah, you too.
We're going to don't let the dogs out. All right, you're good.
You're fine. Hey. I've seen pictures of this in person. So with stone tools, like I find them, because my head's just buzzing constantly with everything. When I'm stone tooling or flint napping, it clears my head, I guess. Like it's just I don't know, would you say it's a primal focus?
It's definitely a primal focus. I think it's something that we all can just find a way to kind of connect with. And I think once you understand what the tools can do and how you can make them, you really realize like, man, there's a huge freedom in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like certain environments have better stone than others, but even being able to like, polish an axe head out of stone, like this.
The Celt axes are
Yeah. This took me several days, but as I was doing, I'm like, I'm building a tool.
Yeah.
And it's going to work for me. It's that sort of thing that I seek out, and like even scraping the last deer hide I did, I'm like, yeah, it took me a while, but doing it in a way that we've done it for hundreds and thousands of years. More importantly, like that one skill, that one tool has allowed us to kind of progress to where we are today. So it's really taking a step back and really showing just good appreciation as well as thorough understanding of it. And like, I'm not the biggest napper where I like to make these fancy points. Like I think we spoke once before. I'm like, just make tools, make arrowheads, make function. That is where you need to start, because once you learn how that tool works, then it really shapes your design and how you go about, creating it. Like, do I need to get this thing paper thin? No, I don't, because I'm going to be scoring around a tree with it for the next 5 days.
Yeah.
I don't need to get it like that. I want it to be bulky. I want it to be thick so I can keep addressing the edges and, you could, ultimately use it.
Yeah. And you have that crescent shaped knife with the finger holes in it too. I'd never seen that in the record before.
Yeah.
But
I think it's right behind you. I mean, butchered a bison
there
with it. I think it's over there.
This guy?
Yeah.
So like, I'd never seen these before, but it makes it's like a kukri.
Yeah.
I mean, you find that functional more than.
Absolutely, because it gives me somewhere to hold up in the mass. But this was the second bison butchering tool, and I've enjoyed my stone tool journey. I've more importantly enjoyed making things without knowing that they've already existed, just because it's like, oh, that makes sense. That feels good in the hand.
Yeah.
I mean, this works really well. I've got this edge where I can jump in, and I can also flip it around and do a hide. So. Yeah, they all serve their function. It's not beautiful, but this thing will last.
Yeah, it's good looking
for a long period of time, and that's really. I mean, I've got knives over there. I'll leave it there, but I've got one that basically now it's just like a weird looking blade because it's been reworked so many times. So when I look at it, I remember all the times I've used it in the stories and why I've used it here and why I've used it there, and like dropping it and be like, shit, did it break? No, it didn't break. And then, so every stone has a story. When you pick up a piece of steel and you look at like a modern knife, you'll never know the wear and tear on it. You might, sure. But like with a piece of stone, that exists even in the archaeological record. We look at, some Folsom points and some Clovis points. We have short ones, we have long ones. Well, probably it was once long, thrown, broke, retouched the tip,
right?
And now it's shorter. There's a story to it, and you find that with the stone.
Or they took a big flake off on accident. They didn't mean to, and it shrunk down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not the tip off. There's always a story with the stone, and I think, as I put stuff on social media and YouTube and this and that, I get a lot of people that reach out and say, hey, is this an artifact? Is this that?
Oh, I bet.
Tons. And I'm always 100% honest. I'm gonna be like, sometimes it's just a rock, man. Sometimes it's a piece of debutage. If it is a piece of debutage.
Asking to identify something for them. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, the easiest thing to do is always, I found this on my grandfather's property.
I get those a lot.
Yeah. In Ohio, I'm like, well, check with your local museums, this, that, and the other. But, sometimes I'm like, that's just a flake. They're like, no, I think it's a scraper. I'm like, all right, well, cool, man. Then it's a scraper. But I can tell you, if you think that is a scraper, you're sorely mistaken. I'm like, all you have to do is prove me wrong. Go scrape a hide with it. And I can guarantee you probably in 15 minutes, you'll be like, you know what? Maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger. The edge really isn't holding up. And I'm like, exactly. So the easiest way to tell if something, in my opinion, is does it have obviously indicators of, pressure flaking and, all these different things, but like, does it make sense? Feeling something fitting good in the hand is not a good indication. I'm like, you could pick up any round rock and it's going to feel
intelligent design or whatever.
Exactly, man. I'm like, cheese o Pete's. So yeah, my girlfriend spun me up to an archaeological site on Reddit. And I was like, probably after 15 minutes, I'm like, I cannot be here. Cause everyone had like, I have rocks. I'm doing a video soon about why your artifacts aren't. And like, basically there's probably a couple behind it, but if something looks like something, it doesn't make it what it is. If something looks like an axe head, I can probably tell you in 30 seconds that it's not an axe head.
Yeah.
If it feels good in the hand. I'm like alluvial fans that have from glaciers.
Right.
I mean, they can't produce similar cracks and rocks and all. I'm like, come on, people. They just.
Yeah. Well, the geo arc of it all.
Yeah, geo artifacts. I mean, there's eco artifacts, which is more your plants and your seeds and that sort of thing. But I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I usually just tell people like I can't tell unless I have it in my hand, but it looks not. It's just a rock.
Yeah.
But they want it to be like an effigy of a coyote or something.
Yeah, I'm like, oh god, man. There's like how many Neanderthal like effigies that we have that yes, okay, that rock does not originate from that location.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they carved it. I know when I was a kid, I would walk on the beach. I'd find a rock that looks like a heart and I'd give it to my mom. It doesn't mean I carved it. It just looks like something. Yeah. So when you see something that looks like a face, it just is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You could find indicators that would be indicative of some sort of, manipulation of that stone. But I mean, we can walk through the Walmart parking lot, go past all the rocks and be like, oh, that looks like this. We do that with clouds. We do it with trees. Right. We do it with shadows. So
yeah, I forget the word for that when you see faces and things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget the word, but
he'll put it right here.
yeah, I will. Something carophilia or something like that. So you ever watched The Last Airbender? Or have you heard of it?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so there's like the earthbenders in it.
Yeah.
I always kind of think of flint knapping as like you're legitimately earthbending. Like
that's true. Yeah.
You're switching stuff. Do you think, do you have any conjecture on like what ancient people would have thought as to like some spirituality behind it or like?
No.
You don't know?
No.
Okay.
I would say no. I don't think spirituality was, I think we'd have to break down what spirituality is.
Sure.
And then whatever we think it is today probably didn't exist back then. I think there was.
You think they just saw them as tools as well?
I think they saw them as tools. I think later on, once we started doing burial practice and putting those tools in burials, was it an offering to a god or was this person's tool and they loved that shape or they used it so much they wanted to let it be with them? I think that spirituality and believing in certain aspects as we progress as a species could be a priority. But when we were trying not to be eaten by dire wolves and trying to make meals, I'm sure there were practices, but nothing to like the capacity that we are today.
Yeah.
I think we would like to believe that.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's evidence in certain ways, but I don't think they believed in an almighty, but they probably understood the importance of herds moving through an area, moving from one cave to another. And the animal that once was in this cave, whether it was a cave bear or something like that, that held a spirituality, but nothing to like what we compare today. That's it's like a weird way to think because like we believe, people believe in Jesus, Muhammad, all these different higher power entities. I don't think it was the same thing back then. Like there was
more animists and things like that.
More, and maybe certain rocks represented certain things.
Yeah,
but it's hard to say like what.
Yeah. Because I forget which Aztec or Mexica god it is, but one of them is like the god of night and obsidian.
There you go.
So like something associated with that.
Yeah.
But, or like you could associate obsidian with, I guess, fire. They probably didn't know it came from a volcano.
But I mean, I think that is like far advanced in compared to like, 300,000, Homo heidelbergensis and Neanderthal, that sort of thing. They had civilization. They had the time to think about gods and why this worked and why, yes, they're very ruthless in various ways, but I think if we go way, way back, I think it was more like animist, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's always going to be someone rolling down temple steps somewhere.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I always think about it like, oh, you're out in the woods and stuff like that. But it's like, sometimes I don't have time to think about everything because it's like, I really need to get some sort of food. Or I'm trying to walk from point A to point B. It's different priorities, but.
What about fire? Like, how do you think fire got invented? I have two ideas, but
I think fire was invented probably number one through lightning strikes. And then early humans came across animals that were deceased in that setting fire and then exploited the carcass, that animal, and then realized cooked meat. Oh man, this tastes way better. More importantly, the scents and odors from a bloody animal is far superior than an animal that's been cooked and charred, that sort of thing. So I think that kind of came into form. And then I believed the evolution of fire went from harnessing it from the land, keeping it alive through various means, through, slow burning matches and small little tinders. And then once those things died out, they understood how to create it from that small little ember, the remnants of a fire.
Yeah.
And then I think just through experimentation, probably rubbing things and sticks and feeling heat, there's probably some sort of
and that's how you come up with the different like friction fires
mechanics,
and things.
fire plow, hand drills.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it was first lightning and then keeping it alive, carrying fire. That was probably very substantial. And then, and at some point, I think between marcasite and quartz, or marcasite or pyrite, some sort of flint, they probably saw the spark. And I just think it was like, this is cool. They probably did. Like, look at,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden, it's something started to smolder. And then that smolder represented something that they were able to do by keeping fire alive. Because I think some of the oldest fire kits is marcasite and flint. I mean, not so much bow drill, hand drill,
I don't even know
anything like that. I think in one of the Spanish caves or something along those lines.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, lightning. I think like they saw it happen, and then whether Homo erectus had the capability to remember, like, okay, there's a storm coming. Let's chase the lightning or something.
Cognitively be like, lightning. Oh,
yeah,
I see. Yeah,
like everyone
cool.
get ready. Like let's find some.
Let's go get it. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, that, or just like when it happened, somebody was like, "This is dope," and like took it and brought it back. But I'm sure there was some reverence to it. But I don't know if Homo erectus had that much. They got all the way to basically Australia, so they had speech for sure. Yeah. And I personally think if you are making stone tools, you have to be able to speak.
Absolutely.
There's just no way.
Yeah, I think we just like to discredit our capabilities so many, hundreds and thousands of years ago, whether it was the speech that we obviously do in many forms today, or was it forms of moans, grunts, high pitch, low pitch sort of things. But I imagine probably a lot of hand and arm signals. So like the collective of like sounds and hand and arm signals, similar to like a Native American,
science.
Yeah. Same.
Because I don't know how you'd explain Hertzian cones and like physics and angles and grinding with just grunting. But.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think with that though, observation. I mean, if you think from like a hunting standpoint, you don't want a lot of communication, right? The hand and arm signals. But when it comes to something like napping, I would say it's probably just replicating what somebody sees and understanding I can hold it this way, I can hold it this way. And then one guy being like, it's very simple.
Yeah. Everyone's got a different style.
I think that'd be a really cool experiment though to do. Take like 5 people that are unfamiliar with napping and have one person just nap in front of them and then try to get them to nap over like a 1-year period every other like weekend, but there's no communication to see how long it would take them to pick it up.
That's a really good idea. Right. I wonder if that's been done.
We should do that.
Yeah. I'm down.
That'd be a fun one.
Cause I just remember you, like when I would do it in COVID, when I was in quarantine napping on TikTok live, you would like pop in and be like, flip it, like go around, you're doing it wrong. And like,
then you'd be like, holy, this is so, I'm like, just do it.
I was like, my teacher's listening. But yeah, speaking of too, like I have my professors in like my career that advise me and like, whatever you're doing, like keep doing it. Like, you're good at it. But then like in terms of, because they don't, how would I explain this? Like when I went to the site last year.
Yeah, that was cool. I was so jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I'd look at your stories and be like, I don't even want to look because I know the next one's going to be awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's amazing.
That was so cool.
Like as a student, I would look at the stone and like have a textbook and be like, oh, well, this is a tertiary flake because of X%. Yeah. But then when I was out there last year, I picked up that biface and I was like, this guy was pissed. like it just was a different perspective on it. Yeah.
Well, like there's a crate over there behind you that's all of my broken pieces. And it's like when someone sends like, hey, could this been this? I'm like, that is, I can guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, that is a broken biface. I know the exact process that happened, and that's why I think the cool thing, like I always say the story of stone, there's such a story with stone from the creation of it, the using of it, the resourcing of it. And once you've broken some stone with your hands and given yourself some cuts and bleeds, you without a doubt know that story.
Yeah.
And It's awesome. Like even like these little guys that just to flake, putting an edge on it. But I'm like, that tool in itself, like this could shape your world in so many ways, from cutting notches in fireboards to opening game to cutting fibers. I'm like, this one tool is so.
Yeah. Is that a flake tool?
Yeah, it's like I've been into this the mouse drain. You know, so I've been taking a lot of them, but I've come to love a lot of back blades just from the third bison. My hands are always getting cut up, so I've been doing a lot of blade core blades, and you know, just coming up with different tools that I know work, but then also some things that I'm, you know, kind of experimenting with. So I'm doing a bison butchering class.
Yeah,
June 1st and 2nd. And yeah, folks are going to come out. We're going to create all sorts of stone tools. I'm going to have some on site, and then we're going to just take apart a bison. And then I think Dev and I will probably lock on another bison for another atlatl, and hopefully Shonigan spear.
Is this the one we shot at?
This is the second bison. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't get to throw into the bison, but I did the one on the hilltop with you guys.
Yeah.
So we need 40? No, you need above 88, which you already got above 88 in the bison experiment.
Fuck yeah.
One for savings. Merc.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, that stuff's fascinating too.
Yeah, it's a good time, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I know Devin puts in a lot of hours, and I kind of get the enjoyment of napping some points, and but he has his process. And after the first one, I was like, all right, he has his process. I'm gonna let him do his science.
Yeah. It's like legit science too, like with all the motion cameras. And
it is
the math.
Legit. Like he's put the hours in, and I mean, in my personal opinion, you can't really refute anything that he's published, and with stone tools and just hunting, you know, game, and
it's overkill with the science he does.
Oh yeah, but I'm like, it's perfect, man. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the coolest thing that we took away for me personally, I think, was by like the second dart we threw in that experiment, we weren't getting the depth that we were wanting. And we were like, what the heck? So John Whitaker was there. Devin threw the dart. John and I were over there doing it. And we pulled the dart out, and it was just encased with hair. So that bison still had its winter coat on. And when he threw it, we were like, man, like, I think it was like a Folsom point or something like that. But I'm like, it's not getting depth. And when we pulled it out, there's just this clump of hair that just slowed the whole projectile going in. And I'm like, man, that's like, when you think about it, like, all right, yes, they were hunting stuff during winter, probably, you know, the last ice age, a lot of things were hairier, but like, that's a whole factor I never really thought about, because the last bison had already lost its winter coat, and it wasn't, you know, the hair, that long hair wasn't catching on any of the projectiles, slowing it down, creating a drag. Do
you think different projectiles were better at getting through hair then?
I think so.
Or it's just the spot where you hit it? I
think it's the spot. And then I also think projectiles that I have a couple inside that are wider in the front and then narrow down to make that huge wound cavity. And then when the transition from the stone to the haft to the actual, foreshaft, if you create that big cut up front, and it's a short impact, right? So it's more of a like this, and then kind of coming down like an upside down salutary point. I love salutary points, but
it's that one right there.
This is like a Kato blade.
Okay,
but yeah, like, so if this was wider here and then tapered out and got smaller here, I'm getting most of my impact up front. I'm getting the max cut width here, and then it's going to thin itself out as that foreshaft and that haft goes in. I feel like it would overcome that. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not an archaeologist or an anthropologist, but like, I sit there and think like, oh, fuck, I got to try this in a different way.
Yeah.
But I think I might actually go back to school.
You think so?
Yeah, I think, I've been talking with Devin. I want to talk to you. I chatted with Carlton about going to school. I don't want to do a lot of paperwork, though. That's my one thing.
Yeah, I don't want to do it either.
But I think if I went back and got a master's degree in Stone Age butchering, like, that'd be the best job ever.
You could do that here or Wyoming.
You could do it everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just butchering out different game with different stone tools, and then doing the cut analysis on the bones and edge wear. I mean, I'm like, that'd be cool, but I don't want to write a lot of papers.
Yeah.
I just want to be like, with what I've done now, does that count? Can that count? You know?
No, same, dude. Like, the only reason I get my doctorate at this point is just to be doctor. Because, like, when I do podcasts, they just call me doctor sometimes. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just let it roll. But all the work and stuff. But you and I, what I was going to say before is, like, I don't have like my professors are archaeological, but in terms of social media and like whatever the fuck it is I'm doing, you're my closest advisor to it. And I have my caveman guy on speed dial, and I'm like, what can I eat here? I think I asked you one time, what kind of mushroom is this? And then how do I nap this better? But you've put in the work and like done all that stuff, so like you might as well just get one. You just gotta learn the theory, I guess.
Formalize it, I guess. I mean, I think it's always good to have resources to go to, you know, whether I'm yours or, you know, however that plays out. But I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of people these days is just to ask, like, hey man, I'm having trouble with this, or what do you think about this? And I think more importantly, I think I'll give you truth. I'm not here to like, you know, and be like, oh yeah, no, it looks like that looks like shit. You know? You know? But I think that's the one thing I can at least provide is like, I don't know what you're saying. Cause sometimes you'll post things and I'll fire something at you, be like, that Life in Ruins podcast was horrible. I'm like, you guys was all science. Like I understood probably a third of it, but I'm like, you guys got to bring it down. Like
I'll get a text from Carlton. They're like, control your boy Donnie. And I'll look at the text and I'll be like,
but some, when all smart people get together, you smart talk, and it's like, there's so many people that want to listen to it. Like bring it down a notch, you know? But it's I mean, if I got around military people, everything's acronyms and dick and fart jokes. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And that was the hardest part of the podcast for me too, because I try my best to like break it down for people, but sometimes a guest will just talk and I can't really stop them. But yeah, it's a definite thing I noticed going through grad school, that scientists are bad at talking about science sometimes. And
to non-science people.
Yeah. Which is why I really enjoyed your stuff, because you're like living anthropology, and I like watching you do it. Like, I don't know, it's 10 years ago I couldn't have seen that. Like it was a niche forum on some website with weird GIFs on it.
For sure. I think that's why a lot of my stuff works for folks, is like there is the science behind it, and I try to give a little bit of science, but like from the standpoint of, this is what I've experienced. Like I don't run, you know, experiments and stuff like that, but from my experience using X, Y, and Z, or doing X, Y, and Z, this is what I can come up with. Yeah. And if someone fires like, well, that's not in the archaeological record, and I'm like, it is now, because I'm going to throw it out there, and then, then what? You don't know. I would never do that. But I think that's the one thing that I've enjoyed, is like, I could go back to school and try to get a master's and something like that, or I could just keep doing what I'm doing and still get the same results. Could I impact a different population or a community? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
For sure.
I would just want Devin as my professor.
Yeah.
I would go down there and be like, look, here's the deal. I'm not doing any of your homework.
Just let me do the experiments.
That's all I want to do, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found you on social media doing your thing, and then you blew up on TikTok. And what do you got now? Like 10 million?
Yeah. 10 something.
What was your first video that you put out?
Oh gosh, I think it was probably
like your first kind of videos, I guess.
Yeah, I think most of those videos were me throwing a rabbit stick, or flint napping in the snow, or just how most people like do a little filming when they're out in the bush and they share it on social media. That's kind of what they were, like drinking from a stream, eating, you know, spruce tips from my car, calling it drive-through.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And then I think after somebody said, can you like make an axe, or can you build a shelter? Slowly became the thing into it. And then when people started, man, I just love how you say, I was like, all right, well, that's the thing, you know? So that's just turned into the format and the formula. And,
you got to get a logo that's just like a hair and beard with in the middle somehow.
Yeah. It's been fun. I think the, most interesting thing is just, you know, I've never really worried about like, oh man, this got 100,000 views or this got 10 million views. I just make it because I enjoy doing it. More importantly, if like someone's like, hey, can you make the knife from whatever movie or this sort of thing, like that might give them a little bit of joy. And I think it's pretty fun, you know? I mean, I can't say that like, I don't like using the word like creator or TikTok.
I don't know what to call it either.
It's just what I normally do. I mean, you're in here, you can see the stuff. It's like, that's just, whether I hit record or I don't hit record, I'm going to be doing that. So
you're
might
just
as well.
Donnie dusting.
Yeah, just dusting up, hitting record, you know?
Yeah. with the 10 million, because TikTok 10 million is like different than an Instagram 10 million, I think.
Yeah.
Because like my TikTok, I got 200 something thousand, but no one, you can't really interact with people and they're just commenting.
Yeah.
But Instagram, it's a lot more community based, at least for me. Have you found like with 10 million people, like it's pressure? Like, is there any like anxiety with that kind of thing?
No, I don't get a lot of pressure, anxiety, or stress from TikTok. Like, I hear so many people say, you got to post every day, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Like, as soon as you do that, it's no longer fun. Then it becomes a job, it becomes a requirement.
Yeah.
I don't have that sort of pressure from it. And I think that's been my mentality from the beginning. And with that mentality, it's been easy to self-manage. There are times where like, I'm like, you know what, I should probably make a TikTok, and I'll scroll through some comments and I'll reply to it, you know.
Yeah.
But
early gang, I think is your thing.
I used to do early tribe was a thing.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't do with TikTok is they don't really appreciate those people that are watching or interact with them. Like, and I always tell people, you know, appreciate you watching. Thank you for your time. I know you take a minute out of your day to watch my stuff and give it a heart. And like, I just want you to know that I appreciate that. And
they can tell their friends like DONNY'S liked my thing. And
if that's what they need to do, I don't want them to buy my merch. I don't have any merch.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for anything in return. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like people, they feel like they have to give something back. And even if the handful of lives I've done, people try to like send me something. Like, don't send me anything. I'm not looking for anything from you guys. I'm happy to take TikTok's money. But I don't want anything from you. I want you guys to just sit back and be like, look at this dude make this weird thing. It's awesome. I want to go do that. And that's been the goal. And with that being the goal, it makes it super easy to kind of move forward and kind of continue making.
Because you're still doing what you like to do at the core.
Yeah.
And I remember your advice too one time was like, don't record everything you do. Like just take some time for yourself, hang out.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I always tell folks they get about maybe 20% of me. Because like the other, like I was in here napping earlier today and yesterday, but I'm like, oh, do I need to hit record? No, I'm just napping. This is what I love to do. And like, I'm just doing that. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. You know, not everything has to be online, even if it's like, and I think the easy thing for me is I didn't grow up with social media and I didn't go on social media till like 2017. So I was very accustomed to doing things and not looking to film it or post it or anything. Like, so I just did it. Didn't even have a camera. You know, I had a phone and put it in a plastic bag and put it under a rock and then walk in. So there was no reason to do anything. And I built up that kind of like, all right, you're out here living in that capacity.
Cached your phone. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. I would, well, my ex-wife was like, make sure you bring your phone. I'm like, it doesn't get service. So I'd put it in a plastic bag, cache it, and then go take off. But yeah, so having a background of not having that requirement, it's very easy to be like, you know, I'm not doing anything TikTok wise for the next, 10 days because I'm in Belize and I'm fishing with my sons and that's what I'm doing, you know.
Right. Yeah. You just went to Belize. Has it, I mean, I guess I already asked, like, has it been overwhelming or like, did you ever expect like this to blow up the way it did?
No, there was no expectations. It was really to monitor my youngest son and him on TikTok. That's why I went on it. He's like, I want to go on TikTok. I'm like, well, I've heard this, I've heard that. I'm going to go on it. I want to see what you're looking at, you know, because at that time he was,
you love your kids, dude. I always respect that about you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. They're everything, man. But yeah, so he wanted to go on it, and then I just felt weird being on it because it was still at that age. Like TikTok is for like teenagers and 20-something-year-olds. Right. But I was like, wow, I don't care. I'm monitoring my kid. And then after a while, I was like, look, dude, all I'm getting are like 12-year-old girls dancing, weird things. I'm like, we got to come off. He's like, just put some of your stuff on there. Like the stuff you always do, just put it on there. I was like, all right.
So your son's idea?
It was, he pretty much managed it for the first like 2 years. He'd be like, you got to reply to this comment. You should do this.
Smart.
He ran it. He ran it all. Like, he would be like, do you want me to reply to comments? I'm like, well, I've replied to some. He's like, you got to reply. You got 200 comments. You got to reply to all of them.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what? So I was like, all right. So yeah, at that time he's 10. He was 10 at that time. Now he's 14. So he totally managed all the TikTok from day one.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets it. You know what I mean? Like as a 40-something-year-old at the time, I didn't get it, but like it's a different sort of survival. He's growing up in that world. There's different things that he has to kind of balances and figure out. And like my oldest boy, he likes to game. And I'm like, you need to keep doing that forever because you are far superior at communication with people at great distance compared to me. I can't even hold a conversation sometimes on the phone with folks. You have the ability with 10 of your friends, all living in dispersed locations, to link up at the same time, to knock out all your personal requirements first, to play an hour of gaming and then do another thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, that takes management, that takes skill, that takes effort. I'm like, you can't discredit those sort of means of communication anymore because I'm like, he's far superior at that than me. I'm like, I can't even plug in half the crap that I've got, in the house. So I'm like, that's good, man. That's really good. That's the way of the future. And they can still take apart a deer.
That's good.
They can still do a lot of those things, but they fly in their own kind of world. So
yeah, I was thinking over COVID too. Like all my friends, we all played online like games and stuff, Call of Duty or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's like a legitimate way to hang out with people.
Absolutely.
Like it's just like because there were LAN parties in the 2000s when you'd be in the other room, people hang out on the ceiling and try to play. But then like thinking about it. We're all in different rooms, but we're all still hanging out just like you would in a circle. And it's fascinating that's a tech I never really thought about. Yeah. And then like when we play with Carlton, we played the sailing game or we played this castle sim game. Yeah. Carlton is one of those people who probably was born to be like a medieval general, but he's channeled it into archaeology now.
Oh, that's cool.
But when he takes command of like whatever game we're playing, we're like, yes, sir. he knows like what he's doing. But I guess with your son too, like it requires skill. You got to organize people. And
absolutely. Like a lot of people discredit kids today because, they game. I'm like, that takes organization. And don't forget parents and older folks, like you do that shit with Zoom. Hey, we got a meeting at this time. Everyone logs in. You're doing the exact same thing. These kids are able to do it in a very similar way, but be very interactive with it.
Right.
Understand, hey, man, how was your day? Like, I hear, what he's saying and stuff. Like, kids, they have a very, functional way of communicating overlaid on some sort of game. I mean, what's the difference of me sitting down and napping and them sitting together and destroying some sort of zombie with interactive gameplay and you know what I mean? That's all. I think it's awesome.
It is really cool. I'm glad you see it that way too.
Absolutely, man.
I guess your generation, are you X, I think?
Gen X, yeah.
You guys, video games were pretty prominent for probably in your youth a bit.
Yeah, Atari and Nintendo.
Yeah, but my parents are boomers, so they watched me play N64 as a kid, but they're disconnected. Yeah. But then like your kids clearly, and then their kids too. It's going to be the first generation where everybody can play video games and like keep up with it in the same kind of way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think like when you played video games, like I remember playing the Nintendo and it wasn't my thing, but like when, I'd have a buddy come over and we would sit and play, but that's how you had to communicate to play. It was just something to do. But now it's evolved in such a way where it's like, I mean, there's genuine relationships forming and like, conversation. Like you could sit in there and play a video game. They could have a conversation about politics or anything.
That's what we do.
Yeah. I mean, it's
relationships. And
that's what I mean. It's a totally legit way to stay connected with your friends. And he's really flourished in it because we moved him away from a lot of his friends when we came up to the Boulder area. So for him, that is how he stays in touch. And I think it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Same. My friends that came out last weekend, we were friends since high school. It's all because of group chats and playing games online. Yeah. Until we're all 30s. They have kids now. I also saw when two of them just had kids, when I took them way up into the Medbos, like to go hiking, the panic of like, oh, there's no signal. But then that slowly turned into, I'm free. Like it was nice. And they were like, thank you for taking us out here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I guess segueing to the end of your like success and stuff with all this media, what's your favorite thing you've done?
Favorite thing
I don't know if you can legally say one or the other, but
I think it,
because you went hard on Alone with that shelter and everything.
Yeah. I mean, between Alone and like out of all like the TV stuff, I think the show that I really, in the time I enjoyed the most was a show called Alone the Beast, where you got to spend 30 days
You're in Louisiana, I
in
think.
Louisiana with no tools.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect environment for me because there was no stone. So it really pushed me and really challenged me to find shells and to make things out of, the cutters out of.
Was it bone?
Yeah, the boar's tusks, it's cutters, and it was just a challenge. And I think like when there's rules sometimes like overlaid, it's like, all right, I gotta stay within these rules. But I enjoyed that. But I think really what it comes down to is like, the success and all these different, in certain forms is it's just giving me an opportunity to kind of be a little bit more free to know that my son has a Clovis Point presentation tomorrow and to know that, there's a high school football. I get to be aware of these things and I also get to be involved in them.
Yeah.
So, like I tell my kids, like, I don't have a steady paycheck coming in, every 2 weeks or every week. So it's like, you kind of have to hustle. You kind of have to do different things to make those dollars. But
my business taxes are so annoying. It's so many revenue streams now.
Exactly. So yeah, I just like the freedom of choice. I have like true autonomy in what I'm doing and how I'm going about doing it. And like, I don't serve any boss or any man. Like I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Serving, Uncle Sam and various folks in the military, that's your job there. Here, it's like, I get to make that choice, like you came over at 2:00. If I was working a 9 to 5, this wouldn't have happened.
Same.
It's the same thing for you. So you get that autonomy, you get that freedom. And I think that's for me personally, that's my biggest success. More importantly, I think my boys see that and, what their plans are in the future and the things that they like. And I always tell them, don't be afraid to sit at your own lunch table. Do your own thing.
Do you? I remember you telling me that advice.
You do you, man. Don't be afraid to just the metaphorical lunch table, like you don't have to sit there with 40
really
kids.
Good analogy.
You just eat your lunch, go about your business and do your thing,
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, very true.
Yeah, man.
And then I guess we can talk about the podcast in a second, but my last question would be like, to you, what's it mean to be human? I know I asked you that before. But
Yeah.
like, you can give an answer.
Yeah, man. You asked me that question up in the mountain. I think to be human is to have genuine connections with people, genuine connections with the environment, and a clear understanding of what it is that you want to do in life and then going for it. Knowing that the people that you connect with can help you in that process, knowing the things that you can do in that natural world can aid you in that process. But you ultimately are the factor that makes all the choices. Like somebody can try to knock you down or, bolster you up, whatever the case may be, but you are the sole decider in your actions. So I think when people realize me, I can respond to a lot of things in a lot of different ways, but I am the sole proprietor of me. I have my autonomy. When you realize that, you're pretty much like unstoppable. Like I don't give a shit what somebody says about me or, whether it's negative, like it does not impact me in any way, shape or form. Like I feel no stress from it. I feel no anxiety from it. For me to be human, it is just, it's just free. It's complete autonomy. It's,
do you
realize, you do you, realizing that I have control over the most important thing, that's me. Like someone cuts me off, I can scream and yell, or I can just be like, maybe they're pregnant, maybe they're rushing to the hospital.
Diarrhea or something.
Any number of things,
Yeah.
But I don't let that impact me because I have control of me. Nobody else, nothing else.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great advice for life in general, man.
Yeah.
Where and you got your new podcast, right?
Yes. So I have a podcast coming out in October with Sony Entertainment. It's called Rescue, and it's going to be a bunch of different episodes, really highlighting some pretty amazing rescue stories all throughout the world. Everything from stuff up into space down to Antarctica, really all around the world. And I am the host, the narrator. I am the one walking you through that process, kind of telling you about that story along with the actual people that were in that kind of unique situation. So a lot of great episodes. I'm really excited. I'm doing a lot of recordings and it should be coming out soon. So October.
And what's it called again?
Rescue. You can find, I'm supposed to say you can find it anywhere you would find your podcasts.
the text there.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Yeah. No, I appreciate meeting you. you've been a good mentor to me over the years.
Appreciate that, man.
And like, I also like, not to be sappy, but like, I know like if I have an issue, I can always text you.
Absolutely.
And you've been like a good friend. So
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, dog.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for letting me in your house and your Daniel Boone area. Yeah.
Right on.